If you're someone who's trying to learn how to do unbroken sets of toes to bar like this, and you want to make it easy, then this is the video for you. That's because in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 key components of exactly how to do a kipping toes to bar so that you can hit your first and hopefully unbroken sets. What is a toes to bar? Here are the exact standards that you need to hit as you're doing this movement. The rep for a toes to bar starts with your heels behind the bar. So I can't start my toes to bar and just go like this. Okay, that's not a rep. Maybe in the beginning it was, but not at the end. I need to make sure that between every rep, my heel passes behind the vertical plane of the pull-up bar. So that's the start of the rep. And then next, you just hit your toes to the bar, right? Well, kind of, but not really. You get your toes to the bar and your toes, air quotes, need to touch the bar between your hands at the same time. So we can't do it like this. That's a no rep. We also can't do it like this. I've never tried that, but it's pretty easy. You can't do it that way. You have to hit your toes between your hands at, generally speaking, the exact same time. Now, when I say toes to bar, a lot of people think you need to actually hit your toes to the bar, and that's just not true. It's actually shoes to bar. So the new movement is officially called shoes to bar. That's because in order for a toes to bar to count, you can hit your toe, but you can also hit here, you can hit here, you can hit here. Basically, the top part of your shoe needs to hit the bar. Oftentimes, I see athletes, and you might be making this mistake, they try to literally hit the exact point of their toe on the bar, and sometimes they miss. They miss over, they miss this way, they don't quite get it there. It's okay to hit the top of your shoe on the bar, and that is exactly how I do my toes to bar because I think it's a lot easier. We'll dig into more of that. Now let's dig into exactly how to do toes to bar. There are 5 key pieces of the movement that make an efficient, unbroken kipping toes to bar. We're specifically talking about kipping because in CrossFit, we try to do more work in a shorter amount of time. So I want more work, shorter amount of time. That's why we add in a kip. That's why we do some swinging. It allows me to get my feet to the bar more times if I add in a kip. You obviously can do strict toes to bar, but they're a lot harder to do, and they require pure core strength, and they develop pure core strength. But again, in CrossFit, we are allowed to kip, and we want to accumulate as much work as possible in a shorter period of time, so that's why we kip. The first step of the kipping toes to bar is the hollow position. I start by jumping up to the bar, and the first thing that I do is I bring my feet in front, my core is tight, I'm slightly pushing down, pushing forward with my hands on the bar. That is the hollow position. From there, I let gravity pull me into an arch position. And as gravity is pulling me into that arch position, I am driving my head forward and pulling my feet behind me. I'm developing tension, which then snaps and creates energy for me to actually do a strong kip. So here's just a quick demo to show you those first 2 pieces. It's hollow, arch. And remember, the arch is aggressive. We're gonna get into that a little bit later, but I'm driving my head through, pulling my feet back, and I actually feel it in my hamstrings, my glutes, my core. I'm feeling stretching in my shoulders. I drive through into that beautiful arch position, and that allows me to go into the next step, which is the lever position. The lever is where I'm going from my arch, I'm moving myself back into that hollow position that you saw before, except I push down on the bar with straight arms to help create a little bit more elevation. The more elevation, the higher I can get my torso and my body on that lever, the stronger I am in my lats and my pecs to press down on the bar, the easier the toes to bar will be. So let's show it to you in real time. I'm gonna do a hollow, arch, and lever. Notice when I do the lever, how much higher my torso and my body is getting relative to that initial hollow position. So hollow, arch, lever. Okay, that was a pretty aggressive lever. If I really wanted to get aggressive, I could go even higher, but you see how much higher I got. From the lever position, it's time to actually start doing stuff with my legs, and that's what I call the lift. There's a couple different ways to lift my legs and lift my toes. There is the more pure gymnastics version, which looks like this. And that's where I lift my toes to the bar and I keep my legs basically as straight as I can. If you're a beginner, I highly recommend using this one. There's also the method that I call the tuck and flick. The tuck and flick is kind of a two-part system that makes it a lot easier to get your toes to the bar and do it for a lot of reps. So I'm in the hollow position, again, aggressive arch. I lever to get some elevation. And then instead of keeping my legs completely straight, I found it so much easier if I tuck my knees into my chest. And then right after that tuck, I simply flick my toes to the bar. I extend my legs ever so slightly and ever so quickly. That gets my toes to touch the bar, and then I move on to the next step. So before we move on, let's take a quick second to break down those two different versions. There is the purest gymnastic version where you have straight legs, and then there's more of the uglier version that I do. That's the tuck and flick. Again, I do think the tuck and flick is easier for beginner athletes compared to keeping your legs straight. And here's the demonstration I want to use. Imagine I press freeze in the middle of a toes to bar. If I am keeping my legs straight the whole time, what is a harder position to hold and maintain? Is this harder or is this harder, right? You can test it out yourself, but you can probably see in my face, this is so much harder to maintain than this is. So for me, I like to tuck my knees and then flick the bar because I feel like it reduces core fatigue. It will potentially increase hip flexor fatigue, and you can choose which version you want to do. But if you're a beginner, I highly suggest trying the tuck and flick. I've found that beginners tend to respond better to that. For me, I kind of interchange the two movements. When I'm doing smaller sets of toes to bar, I can do them quicker and faster with the tuck and flick method. But then if I get tired and my hip flexors get tired and I'm getting a little fatigued, I will then switch to the pure gymnastic kip. So let me show you those both in real time. Here's the pure gymnastic kipping toes to bar. And then here's the tuck and flick. They're slightly different. I think the tuck and flick is a little bit faster, a little bit easier, but you need to find which version you respond to best. There's no right or wrong way to do the toes to bar. One just looks a little bit prettier than the other. And then the final step to hitting unbroken toes to bar is what I call drive. You might think, and what a lot of athletes think, and what you might do is as soon as you touch your toes to the bar, you just kind of let gravity take over and you go back into your next rep. But the problem with that is that it turns into what I call the dead drop fault. And this is very common for athletes who can do a toes to bar, and then they end up swinging around like Tarzan, and they have this death swing. So they do a rep, and then they swing. And then they do a rep, and then they swing. And that's way less efficient. The issue is that they are not actively driving themselves into the next rep. Once my toes touch the bar, I am then actively driving my head through into the arch position while driving my feet back or pulling my feet back. So here's kind of a full speed comparison. If you don't do the drive, it might look like this, and then you kind of swing around, you can't keep the rhythm. But if you do drive, I touch, I drive, I touch, I drive, I touch, I drive. If as soon as you touch that bar, you're like, the rep isn't over, I gotta now drive my head into that arch position and drive my feet back behind the bar into the arch position, that is gonna help you keep the cadence, keep the rhythm, and help you go from maybe one toes to bar with a few death swings in between and then another one to unbroken, beautiful kipping toes to bar. Don't forget the drive. So putting it all together, we have the hollow position, the aggressive arch position, the lever, and then the lift. As soon as those toes touch the bar, regardless of which version you did for the lift, you then drive through. Those are the core elements of a toes to bar. And if you're watching this and you're like, I'm still having trouble with this, here is why. These are the three most common faults that I see in athletes who can't do toes to bar or can't do them very well. Number one is no lever position. They are not actually getting their head and shoulders up and behind the bar. So if I do not actively drive down with straight arms and get my body some elevation, then it will turn into something like this. If I have no lever and I'm just hanging from the bar and I bring my feet forward, what happens is that my hips a lot of times will end up in front of the bar. So you can see, like, if I freeze frame there, my hips are shifted forward My toes are touching the bar, but I'm not in a levered position. I've made no angle change in my shoulders. I need to make sure that I close off this angle just a little bit to make sure that I'm in the proper position to do more than one rep. In addition to no leverage, the second most common fault is a slow leg lift. This is why I really like the tuck and flick, because it tends to get athletes to be more punchy, right? It's a lot slower for me to do that than it is to do this, right? If I tuck and flick, it's just a faster movement. People who keep their legs straight tend to be a little bit slower. The more time it takes my feet to get to the bar, it's gonna have a tendency to pull me forward and pull me out of that levered position. So if you're doing toes to bar and your feet come up really slow, guess what? You've lost the rhythm, you've lost the leverage, and now you're swinging like Tarzan. So think about getting those feet up, tuck and flick really fast, or if you're doing straight leg, you've got to get those toes up to the bar very quickly. The speed will help you keep the rhythm. It's going to help you keep your leverage behind the bar so that you can go into the next rep with a strong drive. And one more fault that's really, really common is, where are your hands? Here's a quick test for you. Remember, leverage is important here. We got to lever ourselves back. If you're weak in that position, it might be because your hands are too wide. If I told you to do a 1 rep max straight arm pull down, are you stronger with your hands out here, pulling down with straight arms, or are you stronger with your hands here? You're way stronger with narrower hands. So oftentimes the key to fixing people's leverage problem is telling them to move their hands in ever so slightly. So if you normally do your toes to bar way out here and you're having trouble getting back into that levered position, move your hands narrower. They don't need to be wider than your shoulders, and it's gonna increase your leverage potential so that you can do toes to bar more easily. So narrow your hands. It's gonna allow you to get much more leverage, which will make the toes to bar easier. That is going to help you get into position to do unbroken toes to bar. So I'm gonna demonstrate a few reps for you. I'll do a few straight leg and I'll do a few tuck and flick. I want you, as you're watching this, see if in real time you can point out all of the different things that I'm doing. Remember, hollow, arch, lever, lift. That's either gonna be the tuck and flick or the straight leg, and then drive. If you can do all those things together and be careful not to do the faults that we mentioned, you will have unbroken toes to bar. And also, look at how narrow my hands are naturally when I'm doing toes to bar. So, see if you can find all of the different pieces, trying to exaggerate them for you, really driving my head through. And then of course we have the tuck and flick, which is my favorite. You'll notice with the tuck and flick, I don't have to kip quite as much, just kind of all hip flexors and a little bit of leverage. And if you want to learn how to do toes to bar, just go to wadprep.com/toes to bar, and I'll give you a completely free training guide to go along with this video. And also, if you're someone who really wants to learn toes to bar and you want to RX more workouts, you have maybe other skills you're trying to learn like double unders, kipping chest to bar pull-ups, bar muscle-ups, handstand walks, let me help you. Join WOD Prep Academy and you and I will work together literally, directly, and I will guide you every step of the way to help you learn how to do all of the RX skills.
So Ben, I just want to say I've been following your double under course, foundation course now. I'm on week 1, day 3 only, and my double unders have gone from 1 to 15 just today.
Just go to wadprep.com/academy. It comes with a live coaching call with me, one-on-one, and weekly live coaching calls with all the members, and a monthly live skill seminar, and so much more. So if you want to learn more, go to wadprep.com/academy. And last thing, please like this video and leave a comment below. What is the one missing piece in your toes to bar that you're going to fix thanks to this video? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in next week's video.